Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Africam show where we'll be showcasing lots of live, wonderful wildlife. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'll be the voice you'll be hearing for the next little while. And I'm looking forward to see who of you are watching, and of course, what are you snacking on? And perhaps it's accompanied by a drink. If this is your first time watching, it's so great to have you on board. We're currently in the eastern parts of South Africa in a park called Tembe Elephant Park. We're not looking at elephants right now, but we've got a couple of impala and some woolly-necked storks just behind them. And I see Bridget McKinney, you've joined and you've said hello. We've got Mr. HUAE87. You've said you've got carrot cake today. How scrumptious. That sounds absolutely wonderful. And I can't remember when the last time that I had carrot cake, to be quite honest. It's been a while. Has anyone ever had carrot cake with pineapple in before? Delicious. Anyways, Jan Powers, you've also just joined, and you said yay for Taylor. Yay for you too, Jan. But it's all looking actually quite lovely and peaceful in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. For those of you that do follow weather systems, or actually for more of you that don't, unfortunately, there's been quite an extensive supercell that built off the coast of South Africa to the east in the Indian Ocean. And there were tornadoes yesterday seen. I know there was one going over the ocean, which I think they call water spouts, and then there were two separate tornadoes that hit different. So for those people in the areas, I hope that the flooding hasn't affected you too badly and that you're all safe and sound. You know, in South Africa, we get tornadoes occasionally, but really it's quite rare. So, yeah, big things are changing, as you can see, but it's lovely, and there's not even a breeze at Tembe Elephant Park today. It's actually quite beautiful. You can see the reflection on the water. Well, I suppose there's a gentle breeze because there's a couple of little ripples. And Kaoru, you said hello. You said you've got milk and cinnamon applesauce today. What do you have the cinnamon applesauce on inside the milk? You're going to have to elaborate there. I'm not a huge fan of cinnamon, so I tend to keep away from it sometimes. And I'm actually really surprised that we don't have any elephants here today, because obviously the thing about Tembe Elephant Park, as the name suggests, there's normally loads and loads of them around. But they might have already been here earlier today, and they've moved off to go and feed elsewhere. Now, there's a question. It says, am I able to tell you which bird we saw in the highlights before the live show? It appeared to be smaller blue-pink bird. It looked like a cotton candy. Now I'm trying to remember which one it was, if it was small. Or was it not the lilac-breasted roller, perhaps? It was sitting on kind of like a fence post, if you will. Yes, yeah, it was the lilac-breasted roller. They're quite an iconic bird, and this area would be quite good to be able to see them. But anyways, maybe we'll see some when we visit some of the other cameras. I'll keep an eye out for that. Well, we've got lots of hellos. April Owl, you've also just joined. You said hello from sunny Connecticut. You've got a blueberry muffin and you're ready for the show. Dear NC, you've also, what have you got? You got coffee this morning, but it's raining in Seattle. Okay, so it seems as though the weather's all up and down. It's also been snowing in parts of South Africa. I would still really love to see wildlife and snow. Can you imagine watching elephants move around in it? I think they'd have so much fun. You've got Bird Book, you've got your water, and you're happy. That's good to hear. And then Glenda, you've also just joined, and you said you're here from Indiana with a Diet Mountain Dew. Do you get that like aspartame taste to it, that artificial taste? That's one thing I don't like when you have sweeteners and things. For me, I'm like, just give me the real sugar if I'm going to drink it. I reckon if impala and woolly-necked storks also drank those sodas, they'd probably prefer the full sugar version too. What is really nice to see is the fact that there is some green grass for the impalas to see, because as we move across to some of the other cameras, especially in the greater Kruger region around the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces, you'll notice how dry it is. So eat up impala. Here's some of the lucky ones. Right, And speaking of elephants, well, we're not in Tembe Elephant Park anymore. We've now moved to Madikwe Game Reserve. And here's a really good example of, well, I suppose, contrasting colors in terms of the vegetation. So now we're at Tau, and we've got two elephant bulls crossing the arid plains. You see they've one, well, the one at the back that's a slightly lighter coloration. That's just from the dust that it's thrown over itself. It's obviously been feeding, maybe in and amongst the sickle bush. Perhaps it was navigating that rather large hill and is now going to come down to have a drink. But you can see how bare it is. And a lot of these trees that we could see in the background, they don't have the highest quality in terms of nutrition of leaves, and often the animals don't always favor them. But going into a drought, nobody can be too picky. Oh, we've got Jean Gale, you've just jumped on, and Berith, you've asking, where are the big cats? Berith, you and I are on this same page here. I would also like to know, where are the big cats? It's actually been ages since I've seen a big cat at one of the cameras while I've been narrating them live. Maybe today will be the day that it all changes. There's always a good possibility of seeing lions. I have seen them around here before. Oh, is that a squirrel? Do you see that? Just, it is a squirrel. Just if we drop down, or is it a mongoose? I can't see. Literally in the center of the screen, right at the bottom, there's something like crawling around. I don't know if you all got to see that. But other than that, we'll just wait for one of the zoomies to see if they can find it again. We've obviously got interesting interactions between these two elephant bulls, where you can see that kind of we're like sizing one another up, trying to tell each other off. There it is. Hi, squirrel. No ways. Is that a ground squirrel? I didn't know that Madikwe had ground squirrels. That's crazy. That is so epic. Sorry, everybody. This is a new mammal species for me in South Africa. I've only ever seen ground squirrels in Botswana. And that's why it caught my attention when it was running around. If you look where the white rocks are, you'll be able to see it just standing up every now and then. It must be, it's picked up a seed of some kind, and it seems to be gnawing away at it. Oh my goodness. Sorry, elephants. I love you so much, but this is so special. Well, at least for me, this is very special. I think I've told this story before, but please forgive me. The first time I ever saw ground squirrels was in where were we? Yeah, we were in Botswana. I lie, I have seen ground squirrels in South Africa. I saw them when I was at Swalu. But the first time I saw them was in Botswana. And our guide, I think he thought we were completely like bonkers because we wanted to sit and I wanted to watch these squirrels for like an hour. I was like, and he kept saying you can watch them at the lodge. I was like, we're not going anywhere. We did have our own, it was a private vehicle, so and I wasn't on a private safari. So I was like, please, can we just sit and watch the squirrels? He was bored out of his mind, and I was just absolutely like, this was the best thing ever. You know, obviously, after only reading about them and then seeing them for the first time, yeah, don't skimp on the squirrel sightings. They are really interesting. And then Kirst has just told me that apparently we see ground squirrels here. How have I missed this? How on earth? For like the last over a year have I missed these sightings? Oh goodness. Um, so Prairie Dog, you're also here and you've got water. Oh, there we go. Bob from Kalamazoo, you've just jumped on. You said you've got coffee and toast. Bob, anything on the toast today or just a plain piece? And then Catherine, hello to you too. You've got peanut butter rusks. Are those some that you brought back with you from South Africa? Snack, you said it's 10 a.m. and a bit hot already. You've got your morning coffee. That's something I didn't have this morning, was coffee. So it's quite a nice day today, and it hasn't been particularly hot, although most of these sort of the northern parts of South Africa have been experiencing a warmer end of May, beginning of June than what we typically see. So these sightings with the ground squirrels, and you can see the one that's standing up in front of us. If you just look behind it, there's actually a second one. So there must be an entire colony just moving through here. And why on earth would you want to go anywhere else when you've got so much elephant dung, right? I know that sounds ridiculous, but just think about all the life that is in there, all the partially undigested seeds, or partially digested seeds. Anything really goes with squirrels. They eat a little bit of everything for the most part. That one was even digging. Maybe it stashed something, or perhaps, yeah, it's obviously something there to eat. And then, Mindy, you've said that you saw a leopard on the Waterhole show at Rosie's Pan in Olifants West. Shoo! I'm so sorry. I tried to mute it before I sneezed and I couldn't get there in time. Sorry. My allergies are through the roof at the moment, so it's not going to be the last sneeze, I can tell you that. And then Arlene, you asked, are these two squirrels? They are indeed, but a different species of squirrel from what we're used to seeing. We normally see the tree squirrel, which, as the name suggests, they spend a lot of time in the tree. Of course, they forage down on the ground too. But in terms of colorations, they're a lot more plain. Think of the color of a lion's coat. They are smaller than the ground squirrel, and they've got big fluffy tails too. But with the ground squirrels, they've obviously got the vertical stripe that runs down the length of their bodies, and then the underside of their body is quite white too. And just overall, their coat color is a lot darker. So this is amazing. The tails of the ground squirrels almost look like they're laterally compressed. They've got a lot of hair that fans out to the side. And I'm hoping, which is why I brought up the temperatures, that maybe we'd get to see them using their tails as an umbrella, which is quite special to see. But staying out in the open like that is a dangerous thing to do. They've got to constantly keep an eye out for aerial predators, so any birds of prey that might be flying around. And you saw it obviously fled off into the distance to try and get shelter. They're also going to be in a bit of trouble if they come across a predator out in that open, unless they've got burrows in the area, which they very well could. They need to be close by to be able to then hide under that if a jackal or something decided to start chasing them. Stephanie, you said those are huge ground squirrels and that you only have tiny ones in your yard, but you call them chipmunks. Oh, that's amazing. Bridget, you said, bless you. Thank you very much. It's the worst. You are lucky that you didn't get my 10 sneezes in a row, because that's unpleasant. To be fair, if I try to mute my audio while engaging in a fit of sneezes, I'd probably end up cancelling the stream, and that wouldn't be fun for anyone. I'm trying to see, are they supplement feeding here? The reason why I ask is just every now and then there's sort of these patches of green, like almost like lucerne or teff or something has been put down. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And the reason why I'll say this is because these animals aren't able to migrate into new areas. Madikwe Game Reserve is enormous, and there's a big fence around it. So, moving into new areas is actually impossible. It's not, I suppose nothing is impossible, right? But it's extremely difficult. So sometimes when it gets really dry, you'll find that these closed ecosystems reserve will assist by putting some kind of a grass feed down, whether it's a lucerne or a teff or a species of Eragrostis, one of the grass species. But a few more elephants just moving through. It looks like they're all bulls. Let's see what happens with the two on the left. You can see the bigger one right at the back. He's kind of just standing there with a youngster going up to investigate around him. And the younger bulls always enjoy the company of the older bulls, but not necessarily the other way around. He's probably just trying to come down for a drink. Quite an easy identifying feature. His left ear has got a huge nick out of it. You will see that. Also fairly big in body side, but his head is tiny. Definitely got some growing to do. Don't know if I've seen a really big elephant yet at Madikwe. Not, for example, not even just in tusk size, just just like a really big, massive bull. Every time I see them, they seem to always have much smaller heads than the rest of their body. But let me know if you've seen some. I think you all know what I'm talking about. Like if you think of the elephants let's just talk about Oldonyo. Again, remove the tusk size, but look at how big their heads are and big their trunks are. But the behavior between these two bulls is also, again, quite normal. They're just going to push and shove one another, establish dominance between the two. And whoever comes out strongest, and I don't think it's difficult to say which one that's going to be, probably the larger one on the left, he gets a noddy badge, and that's about it. He doesn't even warrant a high five. But they don't look at it like that. We always say, fight someone of your own size. And that's not the case, with elephants. They just can't help themselves. They'll always push and shove, and it's definitely a behavior we see more often with the youngsters. You can see the younger bull actually coming back for more. He's like, hang on, wait, we weren't actually finished. I was just warming up. Catherine, you've asked, do the squirrels alarm differently for aerial and terrestrial predators like meerkats do? Yes. So I can really just speak from experience of the tree squirrel species that's more common in South Africa, around the northern parts of the country. They do a very high-pitched thrill when they often see an aerial predator, which it's very difficult to explain it, but it's very difficult different from the I do terrible squirrel impersonations, as you can imagine, which is typically repetitive. It's the sound we hear squirrels producing normally, and they'll do that to what do they do that to declare territories, or just vocalize in the area. And then of course when they see another predator, but one that's on the ground. So yes, they do. And you'll find that lots of animals do that. My favorite is the baboons. I've seen it especially in Zambia. I've noticed that the baboon species will, when they're sitting up high in the tree and they see lions, they kind of make a ha, just a single ha kind of weird noise. Obviously, again, terrible impersonations. And then when they see something like a leopard, then it's the proper babu, babu, big barking sounds. Zygote, you've said namaste. Namaste to you too. I'm glad that you could make it today. Right. It looks like are we at Nkoro? Haha, we are indeed. So if you're not familiar with this camera, this is in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, and it's a lodge called Nkoro, and it's actually quite a beautiful camera because it's on a big open plain with a waterhole. So great area for general animals. For example, we see a lot of wildebeest and zebra. The giraffe are around here quite often. It's a great place for wild dogs. So we'll have to keep an eye out for them. Who knows? Maybe today will be the day. I'm feeling like it's a wild dog day. Not that I'm on safari anywhere, but the town that I do live in, I suppose and wild animals pop up all the time. And last night, in fact, this is how great living between Hoedspruit and Palabora is. That's about 45 minutes away from Hoedspruit. There was a pride of lions that was roaming around the town, but they didn't cause any havoc. They were darted and then taken away to hopefully be released. I think they need to just figure out where on earth those lions came from, because there's lots of game reserves, including the Kruger National Park surrounding the small mining town of Palabora. But the wildebeest are moving off now. Oh, come back. It's so nice to see them in the afternoon golden glow. A couple of blacksmith lapwings too. You can also hear them. So this is such a great place with all the grass available for them to feed on. And I wish we could go back to what it looked like at the beginning of the year and how tall this grass was. It just gets mowed flat so quickly from, of course, the wildebeest, the zebras, the buffalo, impalas and everything else in between. But these wildebeest will probably hang around in this area as they are what we call water dependent animals. There's a zebra too. Not uncommon to see zebra and wildebeest together, as most of you know, constantly assisting one another with protection, more eyes, more ears. And to be fair, if I was a wildebeest, I'd desperately be associating with any other animal other than a warthog, because they're not very good at picking up on predators all the time. I know that's not particularly fair to say, but if you've got zebra sharp eyes with you, they are often on high alert. And now you can see how the wind is picking up quite a bit. Oh, as I go, you said that there's apparently a lapwing chick around at Coral, so I'll keep an eye out for that. That must be teeny tiny. Also, so late in the year. But maybe it's also, I don't know if it's got something to do with the fact that it's just still so warm. I can't say that there's an abundance of insects around because we haven't had the insect activity that we normally have. But that's, of course, from the lack of rain. Also nice just to listen out every now and then. You never know when you might hear an alarm call. And Kaoru, you said that you never knew what a sundowner was until you started watching the drives. So for those of you that don't know what a sundowner is, a sundowner is typically an afternoon drink of your choice. And it's something that we do regularly. It's part of the culture of going on a safari. Actually, I feel like it's just South African culture for the most part. Sorry about that, everybody. It was great when your phone starts ringing and then it rings on your computer. That drives me insane. So, so yeah, so the sundowners are great. So normally they're accompanied with a gin and tonic, but of course, like I say, it can be a drink of your choosing. And typically, if you can find a nice place where you can actually have a view of the vast plains or perhaps near a waterhole, that is ideal. And I had a beautiful sundowner not too long ago. I was in the Manyeleti Game Reserve, and we stopped quite far down at a waterhole in the north, and it was so beautiful. The sun had set, it was magnificent, with some hippos in the water, and the next minute a herd of elephants came around and joined us. But it was great. We didn't have to move because they were drinking on the other side of the dam, and it was quite a big space, and did not really interfere with them at all. They were quite happy just to carry on drinking. So it was such a special moment. And that group of guests that I was guiding had never ever been on a safari before. So can you imagine how magical it must have been for them? I say that there's not a lot of insects, and I bet you also think they're going tailor, but we can see them flying around. One thing that has not been affected by the lack of rain is the amount of flies. I feel like they're just taking advantage of all of this. And you'll see probably around the water's edge, we might even see more insects. And at night, at sunset, oh gosh, this would be spectacular with all the bats flying over. And hear a little alarm call. So that's an oxpecker that's making that rasping sound, drilling noise, whichever one you. There the oxpeckers are. You just see them coming down to have a drink. So I wonder who they've just flown off. So they've got to keep an eye out too. And again, they'll be arguing amongst one another. So they'll have a drink. It doesn't look like any of them are going to have a bath, which is a pity because the golden glow as it catches the droplets of water would be spectacular. And keep an eye out because we are looking for the blacksmith lapwing chick to see if we can find it. But they get so camouflaged. But hopefully the mother is nearby and will maybe point us in the direction. Oh, there we go. I just saw the adult on the far left, which we'll get to now. This will be a good starting point. Although, depending on how old the chick is, actually, no, not depending on how old the chick is. Regardless of how old the chick is, obviously these chicks, when they hatch, they're precocial, which I know you've heard that word a lot. They're covered in feathers. They are able to move around. They don't need really a lot of parental care. They already start pecking for things straight out the egg. So they tend to move away at a little bit of a distance. But I was just seeing a cow who said that apparently the chick is quite big, but still insists on sleeping underneath mom. So that's what we're kind of working with. But if that chick is not moving and it's sitting still, or if it's moved towards that tall grass, we're going to have a tough time finding it. At a waterhole like this, I wish we could plant water lilies or some kind of other indigenous aquatic vegetation. Imagine the jacana sightings and moorhens and red-knobbed coots and crakes. It would be so great for them. Because when you have waterholes like this that are quite bare around the edges, life is limited. Well, obvious life that we can see, of course, there's lots of things living in the soil profile and insects that we don't necessarily pick up on. But it does limit the amount of birds that we will see in a place like this. I think I'd even in a dam, and this is just ideas, if any of you are making ponds or little dams for yourself, add some logs to the water feature. You can toss in a big, well, not like a massive branch that's died. You could also add a stump standing up in the middle. Lots of something like a kingfisher might appreciate to sit on that. And all those, even just those two minor adjustments can really change what you find. And then, sorry, we just jumped to a question. Kaoru asked, were those red or yellow-billed oxpeckers? You couldn't see the beak color. So those were red-billed oxpeckers. Also, Kaoru, let me play what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the calls of those two oxpecker species because they're vastly different. It does take a bit of practice to obviously hear it. But yeah, let me play the red-billed oxpecker for you. Right. So just remember, all birds have slightly different accents. So depending on where okay, these calls are all recorded in the Eastern Cape. So that's a bit better. Very raspy. And now we're going to quickly play the yellow-billed oxpecker call. No, okay. I feel like that's not a good example, though. Anyways, they have a completely different pitch, the yellow-billed oxpeckers. Hopefully we see some, but they did. I could see the beak color as well. They were also red-billed. That, however, that we were looking at is a blacksmith lapwing. Oh, I wanted to tell you about the example in Kenya. Quite often, what they do, actually not just Kenya, they do this all over in parks where the wilderness areas are, even in the Sabi Sand. Is in order to fix the roads, they create quarries. So they basically mine sand or gravel or whatever the case may be to be able to fix and grade the roads. It's quite a difficult process for them to cover up those holes again. So a lot of the time they just leave them, and then during rainy seasons they tend to fill up. And there's one camp in East Africa, they did exactly that. There was a massive quarry that was created, and it was such an eyesore they got permission to be able to fill it up and actually make it a permanent waterhole source. And one of the things we went and did is, we'd said to the national park we would like to try and make it look as pretty as possible, and also just introduce some aquatic plant species, which they said as long as they come from the park, then you're welcome to do that. And we replanted a whole bunch of water lilies, which was amazing. In the one section, we got some phragmites, some of the reed species, and anyways, it flourished, and the bird life that came to that was great. And then we also added a bunch of stumps, so rubbing posts basically for animals. The lilac-breasted rollers happily came around. Once there was a place for them to kind of sit on, because there's not a lot of, like, I suppose, sitting spots in East Africa for the birds. That's why they tend to sit on the backs of animals. But anyways, thank you for listening to my TED Talk on waterholes. And I'm by no means an expert, just by the way. But we're back at Tau now in Madikwe Game Reserve with that big elephant bull with a big tear in his ear that we saw earlier. He's now finally having a drink. Looks like a very gentle drink. He hasn't splashed his entire body just yet. He's still nice and dry. In fact, just the tip of his trunk is wet. And if you're wondering, right down at the bottom of the screen, well, there's two of them now. There's two blackwing stilts. Beautiful birds. There's actually a few more around the elephants. Yeah, was it yesterday? No, not yesterday. On Sunday, I saw a pair of South African shell ducks. They were also around the water's edge. The birding in this area is just fantastic. One day I'll get here just to sit and watch. Akaru, you said that you haven't heard the yellow billed oxpeckers very much. So just check out different calls. That call that on the app that I was using, they almost sounded identical, but there really is a pitch difference. I don't know how to describe it. It's not as piercing as the red-billed oxpecker. It's also kind of a slightly shorter call. Anyways, oh my goodness, everybody, speaking of birds, look at this. We've got Egyptian geese goslings, and they are just the funniest things in the whole wide world. I tell it to everybody, and we've obviously moved away now from Madikwe. We're back at Tembe. What we're going to look for at a couple of things, but we'll see if they go into the water, which might be a bit easier to see. Now, if you're wondering why on earth were these goslings away from the water's edge, is that Egyptian geese, for the most part, don't really nest near water. They'll use almost anything as a nest. We see them using red-billed buffalo weaver nests. I've seen them nesting on top of hammock nests. They create really big nests. I've even just seen them in a bush with eggs before. And quite often it's a distance from water, and the adults need to walk those youngsters back to the water's edge. But of course, they're predominantly grazers. So they also need to go out of the water to feed. And again, high risk, just like what we saw with the ground squirrels. This is even more difficult for these little birds because, gosh, there's so many things that can eat them. A snake could grab them. I mean, a monitor lizard could happily snatch one of them while out in the open. And of course, all the birds of prey, as we said, a crocodile, all sorts of things. But Egyptian geese parents are always on high alert, and I don't think I would mess with them. Not even the slightest. But let's see if they go back to the water. How many are there? 5. Zygote, you said that you filled a quarry with water and that there is a leopard that visits it during summer. It's called Ganesh Kund. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. So you can see how, it's obviously not great that we're mining materials from the earth, but we have to do it, and it's all for good use. And then turning it into a water feature, I think, is not the worst idea. You can see it's just natural instinct. Look at the little ones. Of course, they learn from the adults, and if the adults find anything that's interesting, they'll make a vocalization. Like you've probably seen it with chickens, and then all the little ones come running towards an adult. But they just naturally will just start feeding on all the grass. And they are lucky that at least there's decent grazing still at this time of the year. something else I also keep an eye out for. When we start to see these palm trees, I get very excited because there's a small bird called a lemon-breasted canary. I almost forgot the bird. Doesn't it drive you mad when you're about to tell somebody something, and then all of a sudden you're just like, what am I trying to tell everyone? This happens to me about 700 times a day. I'm not sure. I don't think that they occur in this area, to be honest. I've seen them really only up with South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique meet. But I just think it would be so interesting as to what, surely they must occur somewhere around here, maybe. There's quite a few palm trees in this region. So I just keep my eyes out. And so if you ever see a small little yellow bird flying out of those palm trees, I suppose, they're kind of light and cut. They look like a very small bird, light on the back and then yellow on the breast, as it suggests. Definitely keep an eye out. And then April owl, just going back to the Egyptian geese goslings, you said that they are absolutely the cutest. Oh, and then Kathy, you asked if that was a starling in the tree. You are right. Oh, actually, no, I don't think. I thought you were going to say it was a drongo, I think, but I think you said it was. Oh, maybe. Yeah, it was a drongo. So if that was your second option, then that was correct. It was a fork-tailed drongo just sitting there earlier. So even as these adults walk, they're so careful. You see, one has just stopped now, just listening. You never know, a leopard could come charging out too. Leopards catch birds all the time. An Egyptian gosling will just be a little snack, but they wouldn't be put off by catching an adult. Constantly just looking about. And if something does happen, those goslings will either run for cover or run for the water, I suppose, depending on what the threat is. And the adults will try and distract them, whatever predator it may be. And you can also hear a dark-capped bulbul. Do you hear that? That part. That is a dark-capped bulbul. The vocalizations of the birds here are fantastic. We're kind of just catching them now before they all find their perches for the evening. Surprised we haven't started hearing any of the robin chats. But this would be a birding paradise. I really need to make an effort to get up to this area. It's just everything is so far away. I think even South Africans, we all forget how sorry, what was I going to say? We all forget how big the country is, but for me to get to Tembe Elephant Park is probably going to, I think it will probably take 10 hours of driving. Let me check. Maybe even longer. Yeah, just over 9 hours. Probably actually a bit longer because of the quality of the roads in those areas are not particularly great. And of course, who doesn't love the ratting and gurgling of the impala? A bit late in the season to be doing that, but anyways, each to their own. Come on, goslings, come back to the water. You can see there's two that have got distracted. There we go. just come bursting out. They pick up the pace when they realize how far behind they are. So my favorite thing in the whole wide world, and I think everybody that has probably knows this, but I hope they go into the water, because then when they do swim around, especially from, if you're looking at them from the back, they look like little orcas with big white patches on their rumps as eyes, and then you can never unsee it. Obviously sans the fin though. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to Google a picture of a Egyptian goose gosling. Whoops, there they run. They move so quickly for something that's got such little feet. Oh, did you hear that? Sounds like a gorgeous bush shrike. There we go. That is a gorgeous bush shrike. That's a very special bird to hear. And of course, to see one is probably one of the hardest birds I've ever had to track down. I've had many a sighting stolen from me. And when I finally got to see them, it was only a couple of years ago, maybe like 5 years ago. Highly recommend it. You're also going to have to Google a picture of that bird. It's absolutely stunning. Lives up to its name, that's for sure. Now we can hear a few more species of birds. Yeah, the red-eyed dove now. And that to me is just one of the most beautiful things about nature. It's just all the sounds that you get to hear that we lose when we're in big cities. That's the first thing that I miss, is the quietness of, for example, where I live. It's quiet and loud in its own regard. We hear hyenas and lions roaring quite often, and leopards soaring. Hyenas whooping, of course. And I kind of miss summer now, purely because of when the birds wake up so early. You open your windows a little bit, and then that beautiful sound just drifts on in. Great way to wake up, rather than the obnoxious call of an alarm. Oh, these little goslings will be loving it now, getting their feet wet, and that sort of swampy area, marshy area is probably a better word. You find all sorts of things in there now. They might even get lucky enough to catch an insect. It sounds like there's a bobo calling in the distance too. Gosh, all birds that I don't get to hear very often anymore. Wow. Well, I'm wishing these Egyptian geese good luck, and especially the goslings. I hope they make it for many more months to come. But as we all know, unfortunately, they don't have a high success rate at raising the goslings. There's just so much against them in terms of predation. It's so very special to see them, especially so late in the year. But thank you so much, everybody. How much fun. Hopefully next time the big cats will come out and play. But I'll see you all on Thursday. Until then, happy watching the live videos. Bye.